with Rowan County and the Western Salem area. But I want to talk primarily about the emphasis on the Department of Education as it relates to all of our wonderful kids. You know that the Department of Education is definitely on the slashing ground throughout our country and with this administration. And so they've come up with a thing where 90% of our students have attended the public schools. So I'm a product of public school. And there are 8 kids in my family, so the only way to a middle class in my avenue was to go through the public schools, of which I've got scholarships, and being able to rise upon the ranks. Also, 95% of our students with disabilities learn in the public school setting. So it was really great to see all of the wonderful kids there that are a product of our wonderful education department throughout the entire community and throughout our country. So when they talk about the divisive terms of eliminating the Department of Education, they don't know that the children, our girls and boys, and the wonderful crowd that we have are our future. So they know that they're eliminating half of the society of which we're going to depend on in the near future. So they're coming up with this divisive language about coming up with a wrecking ball towards our Department of Education. They don't know that the Department of Education has a direct impact to all of the counties in our area. They affect the suburban areas, the rural areas, and the suburban areas all across the state of North Carolina. So when they talk about that, how does that affect our county? Where 14% of the counties and the students in Rowan County are below the standard of living. They don't know how many people are from Rowan County. This is where 14% of you all are impacted by these drastic cuts with the Department of Education. How many people are from Davie County? Well, you're impacted by 11.6%. Are going to fall within that margin of being impacted by the cuts in the Department of Education. What about Davidson County? Okay, don't forget about you all. 12% fall along that margin. So how many do you know that how it impacts? If you talk about the cuts in the Department of Education, it simply impacts all kinds of revenues. And Title I provides for reading teachers to make sure that the discrepancies between reading and math are closed. They provide for extra teachers. So whereas instead of you having a classroom full of, how many have visited your schools and have seen a classroom full of 40 or 50 students at one time, especially during COVID time, piled in one class? Tell me how successful learning takes place during that type of arena. It doesn't. So Title I provides for extra support for teachers to reduce the class size, and it also provides for extra support so that your child does not have the deficits in reading and math that you see accordingly to all of the stats you're seeing across the board. And so, Congressman McDowell, and I called you several times to know that your counties throughout Rowan, Davie, and Davidson counties is impacted by these tremendous cuts. 188,000 teachers across this country will be impacted by these so-called DOGE cuts to the Department of Education. That's 2.8 students in the Department of Education. Also, those students who have disabilities, 2.8 are impacted through those programs that are now out. So think about that. And I called you several times to ask for a town hall meeting. Guess what? He ignored my phone call. He said that it wasn't important. So I'm asking, I deliberately drove my buddy and I 30 minutes away to make sure that I'm speaking out to show the importance of education and all the reduction in force cuts that the Department of Education is planning on having. And guess what? Linda McMahon, McMahon, our so-called Secretary of Education. Guess what? Guess what, girlfriend? If you can pull yourself off the wrestling mat, know that the Department of Education is critical and important, that you're going to make sure that you're impacted with the IDEA. You probably don't know what that stands for the Working Individuals with Disability in Education Act. $15.1 billion. Can we afford that? And guess what they're planning on doing? All of that money goes to some type of charter schools referral. So whereas they come out of the Department of Education into the schools that we value so importantly for our northern boys, into a voucher system. How fun is that? You want to see little Johnny and Susan that you love to see so much into your school, supported by the resources that the Department of Education stands for and provides. So where are these funds going to come from? Who knows? Who knows? They don't know. They can't tell us. So what I do know that this little lady is important and her future is important. And so we're going to continue to fight for what is right in our country with the Department of Education.